And welcome back to inside number 23, my little piece of the interwebs, which is all about knitting and sewing and generally living the craftiest life possible. My name is Katie and you can find me everywhere on social media as Miss Lavelli, although I'm most active on Instagram. We also have a Ravelry group for the podcast, which you can find by searching inside number 23 on Ravelry. And I am coming to you as always from my little part of the UK, which is Hertfordshire, just north of London, where I live with my husband Emrys and our lovely pug puppy Rolly. And it is really good to be back with you again for another podcast. I'm back on that podcasting train. I'm doing my best to make sure that episodes are going up now that I'm back in the swing of things, as it were. And yeah, a couple of things to start off with, I guess. This is the first podcast that I am recording since our video announcement went live at the beginning of this week. I'm going to put a link down in the description box just down below in case you haven't already seen it. Oh yeah, notes for the podcast, show notes for the podcast can be found just down below, just down there. So if there's anything that you want to find out about or you can't remember the name of, then check down there. And I also timestamp all of the sections of this podcast, so if you'd prefer to kind of skip through to a bit that you would prefer, that's all down there as well. But yes, our announcement video. Yeah, so Emrys and I are expecting our first human baby. Hooray! Because obviously we already have a fur baby who is Rolly, love of my life, light of my heart, everything to me, but we are expecting now a human baby, and it's been a bit of a crazy week, mostly because we weren't sure exactly when our video was going to go live, so that all was a little bit apprehensive and I didn't know what people would kind of say, but everyone has been amazing. Thank you so much for the outpouring of love and support, and you can probably tell I'm a little bit jittery still about it all. It feels incredibly strange to be talking about this on the podcast because obviously we've known for quite a long time, but for various reasons we've kind of kept it under wraps. But it was getting to the point where it was more awkward not saying something than actually talking about it, hence our announcement video, which I'm glad that so many of you enjoyed. I know it's a little bit OTT, but that's just the way that we are as a couple, and we really enjoyed making it. So yay! And yes, pregnant, me. It's very strange to be talking about this, but it had got to the point, essentially, where the baby is making its presence known very, very much. I mean, let me just show you this. This is baby bump. It is very much there. It is very much present. And there was no getting away with the fact that baby was with us. So yeah. It is a very weird thing to talk about once you've been keeping it kind of secret for a while. So yeah, I am currently in my second trimester of pregnancy, and we waited a little bit longer than is usual, I guess, to share this publicly for a couple of different reasons. But I'd like to say right up front of this episode, I don't think the podcast is going to become super pregnancy themed, I guess. It's obviously a very big thing that we're going through, but I understand that babies and stuff with babies isn't for everybody, so I don't want to alienate anybody. Rest assured there will still be lots of crafty content that is baby separate, so please don't think that it's all just going to be baby forever and ever, although I can't stop saying baby because now it's like the floodgates have opened and there's just this rush of needing to talk about things. I do think that Emrys and I will probably be recording separate videos about our pregnancy experience, probably about some of the stuff that we're doing around the house. We're having quite a fair bit of work done before our small human gets here, so if that's something you'd be interested in, I would love to know. Please comment down below if you'd like to hear about that kind of stuff and see about that kind of stuff. But mostly talk about pregnancy related things will be separate from the podcast videos. So yeah, all that being said, we're very happy, and although it was very, very important to me to keep this in kind of the family and close friends for as long as we did, and I really appreciate that, it's been really, really lovely to be able to talk about it openly, and I feel like there's been a big weight lifted from me. So yeah, I think we should crack on with some regular podcast content, don't you? Now, saying that it's not going to be heavily baby focused, I must admit, this week my projects are pretty much almost all for the small human, and that is because I haven't been able to share these projects with you before, but it will probably even itself out a lot more, I think, in the weeks to come. But yes, I have some finished objects to share with you this week, knitting wise. I have been knitting away. I've actually found it really interesting that I was never one for knitting baby garments or anything like that before I found out that I was pregnant. And it took me quite a long time into my pregnancy to actually allow myself to do that, because I am quite an anxious person. I didn't want to jinx anything, so I wasn't kind of knitting from the second that I found out that we were expecting. But I have been working on a few projects, and they're so small, they knit up so quickly, so they're perfect for this time of year, particularly considering how warm it has been in the UK. And if you've heard about the kind of the dry spell, the little like crazy summer weather that we're having here at the moment, you're probably sick of hearing about it. But yes, it has been very, very warm here, and it's obviously not great to be relatively heavily pregnant in this kind of heat, and especially not when you're commuting for at least 3 hours out of the majority of your day. So that's been fun. But one of the good things about baby knits is because they are so small, they're very portable and you don't get too hot when working on them. So I've very much been enjoying working on these projects. But in terms of what I have been working on, I had some specific projects picked out that I knew that I wanted to work on pretty much as soon as we found out that we were expecting, that I had them in the back of my brain. Because I wanted to make sure that we had a couple of special bits and pieces for our little small human for when they arrive. And I had a couple of skeins of yarn that were very, very special to me for various reasons, mostly because they've come as lovely gifts from very, very dear friends of mine. First up was a skein of Winifred Sanderson. It's a Hocus Pocus themed yarn, and it was dyed by Witch Fibre Co. If I can show you the little label there, if that will focus. Yes, there it is, Witch Fibre Co. And I actually have the remaining little cake here, and as you can see, it's all these gorgeous speckled greens and oranges, very, very appropriate for a Winifred Sanderson colourway of yarn. And this was actually given to me as a birthday present from one of my bestest friends, Nikki, of the Tea and Possibilities podcast. This was given to me as a gift for my 30th birthday, which was last September. And I have been keeping it by for a special project. And I'm very, very happy that it has actually become my first ever baby knit for Minnie Matthews. And it's particularly appropriate because obviously Hocus Pocus is kind of Halloween themed, and our baby is going to be due in autumn, so around about Halloween time, little pumpkin. And so I decided to knit up the newborn Vertebrae, and look, isn't it cute? I kind of can't get over how tiny this is. It's really, really tiny. I wanted to have a couple of garments that were kind of newborn baby size, because coming in autumn does mean that it's probably going to be relatively chilly when the baby gets here. So even though I know that they're probably not going to get a huge amount of wear out of it, this took literally 2 evenings to knit up. It's so tiny. It's a kind of little raglan cardigan if you haven't seen the newborn Vertebrae before. Very open at the front. all in stockinette stitch, so you can see the beautiful yarn, a little bit of pooling obviously because it's such a small garment, but I love how it looks. It really does look like a little mini pumpkin. So that's the first garment that I have made for them, and I'm really, really happy with it. This will probably be, I anticipate, their coming home cardigan as well. So we will most likely be taking this to the hospital and popping them in it to take it home, which isn't at all scary, the thought of bringing a small human into the house. Not at all. But I do have a little bit of the yarn left over, obviously, because the newborn vertebrae requires a very, very small amount of yardage. So I might make a couple of other little accessories to match, possibly some little socks or booties, something like that. And then the rest will probably go into mini skeins for swaps. And my friends and I do advent calendars of minis each year. And I should probably get on that now because I will have other things going on around Christmas, which probably mean that I don't have a huge amount of time to wind lots of mini skeins around Christmas time. So yes, my first ever finished garment for the baby, little newborn vertebrae. That was very, very fun to knit. Also, if you remember from last week, I was talking about the fact that I'd been in a bit of a knitting schlump, obviously. Pregnancy kind of took it out of me in a lot of ways. I do think I'll probably be doing a specific video all about exactly what happened kind of during my first trimester and going into the second trimester, because there's a lot of things that I would like to talk about that I don't think are talked about enough in pregnancy. But doing these smaller projects has really been a lovely little taste of getting back into craft and knitting. So again, I think that they're great, and I never knew how fun and simple and easy baby knits were until I needed to make some for myself. So if you haven't tried, maybe you should. I have one other finished object, and this one I actually finished last night, so it's a relatively new off the needles project, but amazingly I blocked this last night, and usually it takes a good few days for projects to dry in our house, and because it's been so warm, this is already dry. So again, summer is a great time for baby knits. I mean, it's probably dry because it's very, very small as well, because it's for a small human, but I finished their first ever little sweater, which is the Flax Light by Tin Can Knits. And this yarn is again a very special yarn. This was dyed for me by my lovely friend Amy of Stranded Dyeworks. So it makes me really happy that both of these first projects are in very special yarns gifted to me by very special people. And this one actually dyed by a very special person, by my lovely friend Amy. Now this colourway is Amy's beautiful kind of burgundy colour, which burgundy is probably my favourite colour of all time anyway, and I really just love this colour. It's so beautiful, and I want a sweater in this, but I thought I've got one skein of this. Amy gifted this to me when she came to visit a little while ago, and it was just a lovely, lovely present, and I just knew it needed to be a little Flax Light. I knit this exactly as the pattern called for, so it does have the garter detailing down the sleeves, which is lovely, and it's just incredibly sweet. I again went for the smallest size, which is a 0 to 3 month size, but I do think there's quite a bit of wiggle room in this. I think that this will last throughout the cold season. And again, considering that they're being born in autumn, they're going to need several months of worth of knitwear to wear pretty much straight away, because we do get weather here. So I wanted to make sure that I was prepared. And plus this was a super, super quick knit as well. Wasn't quite as quick as the newborn vertebrae, obviously, because this has more going on. It's a sweater as opposed to a cardigan, so it's got a little bit more yardage in it. But I love it, and it's so cute and so tiny, and Emrys gets a little bit emotional when he sees all these tiny little knitted things, which is ever so sweet, but I love it, and yeah, it makes me very jealous. I'm almost a little bit tempted to make myself a Flax Light to match, little bit matchy matchy mommy baby type thing, because I'm very much down for that. But I know that there will be a lot of people who think that this was ridiculous to knit a baby sweater out of this, because this is Amy's Paradise base, which is an MCN base, merino cashmere nylon base, superwash. But I love it, and my baby is going to totally have a little cashmere sweater. I don't care. I have no problem hand washing cashmere garments for my unborn child, so that's just my personal preference. And it's just nice to use special yarns for a very special little human, because they're pretty special, I guess. It still feels, in case you haven't noticed, it's a little bit weird for me to talk a lot about the baby to people, because I haven't been doing it all that much. But yes, in case I didn't say, that colourway is House Red. It's one of my favourite colourways that Amy dyes, and I'm just thrilled that already the baby has a very autumnal themed wardrobe. So they already have these two lovely kind of autumnal garments. So yeah, they're doing well. 2 garments already, and still quite a long time before they're going to be with us. So you never know, they might have a whole wardrobe full by the time that I'm finished and they're actually here. So those are my finished objects for this week, little mini finished objects. But I do have a couple of works in progress to share with you. The first one has actually moved into a new project bag this week. It was in a tiny project bag last week, and I moved it into this gorgeous big project bag by Adelaide Cottage. I absolutely love this project bag. It makes me very, very happy, and it stores the entirety of this project and the pattern and all of the extra yarn. And that project is, of course, my Soirée sweater, da, 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 also knitted out of Stranded yarns. Stranded is clearly at the forefront of my mind at the moment. This is knit out of a combination of Paradise MCN and Drift, which is mohair silk blend. And this is getting me hot just holding it. I haven't put a huge amount of work onto this, I must admit. I have been working on the front part of this sweater. So let me just show you here. Last week I had finished the back part, and now I've started on the front, which I have been working on here. This colourway is Shiner by Stranded Dyeworks. I love it, this kind of dirty grey purple. And yes, I have been doing a little bit of work on this, but I must admit the temperatures in the UK have been so warm for the past week that having mohair on my skin has been a little bit unbearable. I have found that it's cooler in the evenings, and I can kind of sit with the windows open and the fan on and have a little bit of breeze. But yeah, it's been a little bit much to work on. I must say I'm also struggling with the amount of yarn that I'm using for this project. I'm alternating skeins, which means because I'm holding doubled yarn, when I'm working on this I have 4 little cakes of yarn all at the same time, and that is a little bit much. I must admit I'm leaning more towards my baby garment knitting because it's smaller and lighter and not so damn hot. But I know that when I do get this finished, it's going to be absolutely gorgeous. The Soirée sweater is a really great shape for me at the moment. It's a cropped sweater, and obviously because I am kind of, well, I feel about 90% baby bump at the moment. It's nice to think that I'll be able to, once this is finished, I will still be able to wear this when I am still quite heavily pregnant. So that's great. I love the pattern. It's from Pom Pom Quarterly. It's from their anniversary edition. I believe it's issue 21, and I very, very, very much recommend it. I'd quite like to make one out of the House Red colourway now, coming to think of it. When I was knitting the Flax Light out of Amy's House Red, all I could think of was how lovely it would look as a Soirée sweater as well. So you never know. I just need to get myself a sweater quantity of House Red. It needs to happen, but who knows what will happen in the future. I have one other work in progress when it comes to my knitting this week, and yes, it's another baby garment. I know I said I wouldn't make everything super heavily pregnancy themed, but it just so happens this episode is going to be, so we're just going to go with it. I'm not going to apologise for that anymore. But I have started my third ever baby knit, and this one is going to be a little bit bigger, but again, it's a very special project that I'm really excited to be working on. It's a pattern that was produced by one of my dear friends, Mina Phillip of Knitting Expat Designs and the Knitting Expat podcast, and it is her double Dutch Childs Cardigan. And as soon as I saw little Layla, who is Mina's little girl, in this cardigan, I kind of lost my heart to it. And I knew that the second that we were going to be having our own small human, that I would want something similar for them. So I actually cast this on last night after I finished my Flax Light. So I've been very productive in terms of keeping things on the needles, knitting project wise. And the double Dutch cardigan is really cute. It is a cabled cardigan and it's just gorgeous. And I've had some yarn in my stash for a little while now that I thought would be perfect. It is this yarn. Excuse the rather messy cake that I have. Okay, it's blowing out the camera, but sure. This was actually a gift that was sent to me very kindly by Hell Candy. Hell Candy sent me this a little while ago. It's called OMG Dog, and it's 100% superwash merino, and it basically is this really cute speckledy yarn, which is very heavily influenced by pugs, and obviously we are a pug household, so this felt perfect. And I haven't done a huge amount of work, as you can see. It's very little to start off with, because I did just cast this on last night, but I'm already really enjoying it. And it's a nice change to be using a DK weight yarn after using fingering weight, which is what my other two baby garments were knit in, and also my Soirée sweater is knit with a combination of fingering weight and lace weight yarn. So it's nice to have something a little bit bulkier. It grows a little bit quicker, so I think this was genuinely maybe half an hour's work, maybe slightly more. I think we were watching How I Met Your Mother, and I think maybe this took less than 2 episodes for sure, so maybe 45 minutes or so of knitting. And I've already started cabling a little bit, doing some raglan increases, and I'm really happy with it so far. I think it's going to be a really sweet garment. Again, I went for the smallest size. With this pattern, I believe that is 0 to 6 months. And that's again going to be perfect for us, for the little human who will still need knitwear for small little mini sizes at the end of this year and the beginning of next year. Excuse me, I've got hiccups. I'm getting hiccups all the time at the moment, but it really randomly will be just like one hiccup and then nothing. It's very strange. But one thing with this pattern, I did have to do quite a lot of swatching in order to get gauge. I believe that the needle size specified by Mina is 4.5 millimeters as your largest size needle, and I actually had to go down to 3.75 to get the correct gauge, but I'm really happy with how the gauge is looking, and I do think that this yarn is just going to be perfect. It's going to be a really nice snuggly cardigan with a little bit of texture, and again I'm very much kind of feeling that, like I said, the autumnal colourway vibe for all of these knits, and I just feel like all of these colours go really nicely together. So even Minnie Matthews is going for the cohesive wardrobe look, which is really great, and it makes me happy to see all of these cakes of yarn all together and all of the kind of little outfits coming together. I'm going to be one of those mums who's like, oh, they must be in the perfect little outfit, and then they'll probably be sick all over it, and then I'll be like, oh, it doesn't need, I don't care, just put them in something clean. But let's start off with the best intentions, shall we? And anyway, seeing all of them together, all washed and folded and ready for the imminent arrival makes me very happy. So yeah, it's nice to feel really positive about the pregnancy and start to put some of my energies into creating things, because for such a long time I felt rubbish. So big thumbs up. Hurrah! So that's all of the knitting that I have to share with you this week. I've got a feeling this is going to be a little bit of a shorter episode for you guys, because I don't have a huge amount to share with you because it's been so warm that I haven't really been able to spend long periods of time knitting. But I do have a couple of other things to share with you. The first is a finished sewing project, which I am particularly enamoured of. It's really something special, and I'm happy that I finally can share it with all of you. So for those of you who follow me on Instagram, you will know about this project already. I've shared a couple of shots of it on there, and it is my quilt. I love how it looks all folded up. How adorable is this? It's so cute. Oh my goodness. But yes, basically, oh, and a little note about Instagram: it is the best place to kind of follow me in terms of everything that I'm doing. I'm feeling really good about keeping it up to date and putting all of my nice new photos and sharing projects and stuff. So I'm feeling very into Instagram at the moment, so it's definitely the best place to follow me on the social media if you want to see what I'm doing on a day-to-day basis. And I've started using Instagram stories more, so you'll probably get a lot more rolly action as well if you're into that. So yeah, head over there. But quilt, this is very, very exciting. So my quilting story starts basically back when lovely Jacqueline Salem of the Brooklyn Knit Folk podcast put up her quilting tutorial. She did an incredible series of videos, which I'm going to link in the description down below, all about how to make your first ever patchwork quilt. And the thing that I love about this tutorial is that it's relatively specific about how you make this particular kind of quilt, but the skills that you can pick up from this video, you can really use them for anything. You could use them for so many different types of quilting projects. It's a really good starting point for quilting, and it's just lovely to spend time with Jacqueline because she's amazing and she has a very, very good eye. So it's a brilliant series of videos. I watched them all when they originally came out, even though I wasn't planning a quilt at that time. And yeah, I couldn't recommend them more highly. So thank you so much, Jacqueline, and also check out her podcast because it's one of my favourites, Brooklyn Knit Folk. Again, I will link it all down below for you. But another lovely gift that I got given for my birthday from Amy, lovely Amy of Stranded Dyeworks and the Stranded podcast, was a collection of fat quarters, and she picked these up for me from a shop called Craft South, which is in Nashville, Tennessee. And Amy went there for SSK last year. Very luckily, she's going back again this year. I'm super jealous because that's happening super soon now. So oh my goodness. But she picked up for me in this beautiful shop, Craft South, a selection of fat quarters, and it's all fabrics that are kind of not things that are more readily available in the UK, and they were all Halloween themed ones. And I must admit, she gave them to me for my birthday in September of last year, and I wasn't entirely sure what I would do with them to start off with, because fat quarters are a little bit awkward if you're a sewist, because they're very, very small. And I'm mostly a garment sewer, not really a quilter. In fact, this is my first ever patchwork quilt that I have ever made. Have done a lot of sewing in my life, but not a lot of quilting, and I didn't really know what I was going to use them for. I had the kind of more tentative idea of maybe making some project bags, some Halloween themed project bags, but when we found out that we were expecting the baby, I at once thought, well, they have to be the baby's quilt. It's simple because they're going to be an autumn baby. Halloween themed quilt seemed particularly appropriate for an autumn baby, and And yeah, so this came into being, and it's been finished now for, I think a few weeks. I have had it all ready to go, and it's been folded up in my office looking beautiful, but I cannot tell you how much I love this quilt. It makes me so happy, and I do think that in terms of decor for our nursery, a lot of what is going on in there is going to be kind of quite neutral. We want lots of kind of whites and greys, maybe a tiny bit of black, not loads of black, but quite a neutral palette, I would say, for the nursery. And so having something like this to kind of pop in with these little bright spots of colour was a really, really lovely thing. Let me show you some of these fabrics because they are amazing. This one is one of my particular favourites. It has lots of little faces that are all kind of dressed up for Halloween. So they're all in little costumes, like a little clown, a little dog costume. This fabric, I believe this fabric is one that Kristen of Voulenvine Yarns has made a dress out of, and I'm so jealous because I love this and I would love to make a dress out of this. But it's very, very cute in this quilt. I also have this one, particularly Halloween themed, lots of little pumpkins, little ghosts, little spiders, little pops of orange on the black, white and grey, which is really gorgeous. This mint green with stars, which is so pretty. And then I have this blue, which has little castles and moons on it. It's just a very, very happy lot of colours and different prints, and I just love it. That orange makes me so happy. But yeah, I used Jacqueline's tutorial. I did change things up a little bit to make this more appropriate for a baby. It is quite big. It's kind of crib size. It's not huge, and it's double that length. So if I just open it up, you can get an idea of the size. It's pretty big. There it is, and oh, I love it. In terms of the backing fabric, I got this lovely grey and white textured cotton. I bought this online. I actually got this from Ray Stitch, which is one of my favourite fabric suppliers. I really, really love this fabric. And I bought the orange trim from John Lewis. It's just kind of a speckledy orange, but I thought that really picked up the orange in the rest of the quilt, which was great. And also I like how it contrasts with the grey on the back, that little pop of orange. I just love this project. I love it so much. The fabric, the batting fabric that I've used, I also ordered from Ray Stitch, and it is a combination of cotton and bamboo. It's very light, it's very breathable. I mean, I don't imagine that we're going to be using this in the baby's crib at all because they will get too warm underneath this, but it will be a really lovely thing for them to maybe be able to sit on, to kind of have little cuddles on, that type of thing, lie on top of. It's already had a nice wash, so it's all fresh and good to go for them. And like I said, I love holding it up because I just think it looks so happy. And I'm starting kind of a little collection of baby bits and pieces. They don't really have anywhere to live at the moment because, as I said, we're in the process of doing a fair bit of work on the house. And we might finally have the house finished by the time the small human gets here, which is very, very exciting, but also a little bit stressful because it's a lot of work. But until we actually have kind of the nursery space functional, because we've still got a fair bit of time before we'll need that to be functional. I can't think of another word for functional, but I like to lay this out, well, just have it folded up, and then pop the other little bits that I've got for the baby on top of it, and it makes me really happy to see. And yeah, small things, but I love this. And I must say, this really was such a curative project for me when I was coming out of a very, very dark time when I hadn't been creating anything, I hadn't been crafting anything, and it just felt really bleak. Everything was very, very difficult, and I didn't really want to be creative in any way. And there was a point when making anything for the baby gave me such severe anxiety that I just couldn't even think about it. And I must admit, working on this project with the little squares, so first of all starting off with the little squares and cutting those out and piecing them together and very slowly sewing all of the tiny seams. It was such a kind of small bits and pieces project that it kind of brought my crafting back to life, and it was wonderful. In particular, I absolutely loved sitting and hand stitching the binding onto the back of this quilt. I love hand stitching, I really, really do. A lot of what I have sewn in the past has been more tailoring and heavy construction garments that do require a lot of hand sewing, and I find the process of making tiny stitches with my hands just so satisfying and such a wonderful thing to do. And to do that for something for our little new arrival, and for it to be such a positive and restorative experience was really amazing. So again, Jacqueline, thanks for your tutorial, because I wouldn't have been able to do this without you. And it's definitely not perfect. I stitched in the ditch along all of my seams for this project, and some of them have definitely gone awry. They're a little bit wonky. I don't think you can tell from the camera, so that's fine. You wouldn't have known if I hadn't shared it with you, but I can't help being honest. And my perfectionist nature really struggles with that, because I was like, oh, but it's not perfect, but I think it is perfect, because this was officially the first project that I finished for our baby, and that will always make it very, very special. And it was just a wonderful thing to do. I still need to sign it on the back. I'm not entirely sure how I'm going to do that. Jacqueline always talks about signing quilts as kind of a personal thing, you know, so saying who it's for, when it was made, who it was made by, and I think that would be a really, really lovely thing for us to keep for years to come, hopefully. But yeah, I love it. Halloween themed quilt. Very, very excited to have it done, and yeah, I definitely can see more quilts in my future. I just found this such a wonderful project, and I now want to do a really nice one for our bed as well for winter, because I'm thinking of revamping our bedroom a little bit, because it'd just be nice to have our bedroom looking all snazzy, considering that the baby's room is going to look pretty darn snazzy when it's finished. I have one more project to share with you this week, and this one is a little bit different. You may or may not remember from last week's episode that I was talking a lot about wanting to get things finished. So using yarn from stash that I've been accumulating for a very long time, and finishing up projects that I haven't worked on for a very long period of time. So for example, I finished up a cross stitch project that I've had in the works for ages, and that was incredibly satisfying. And then I remembered, after I'd finished my feminist cross stitch, which I'm still super, super happy with, that I actually had another project that's probably the longest work in progress that I've ever had, and it's another cross stitch project. And the majority of you, I'm pretty sure, will not have seen this on the podcast. I have shown this on the podcast, but it was a while ago, like quite a long time ago, so I'm not anticipating really that anyone's going to have remembered this, because you know, I'm not expecting you to have watched every single episode of the podcast. You may be a glutton for punishment and want to have done that, but I'm not assuming anything of any of you. But this is a cross-stitch project that I started when I was still at college working towards my degree. Yeah, I mean, I graduated nearly 10 years ago now. So I think this project's been going for at least 12 years, if not 13 years. And it's beautiful. I absolutely love it. But I don't know if it will ever be finished, but it's literally been languishing for such a long time that I thought it feels like the type of project that's never going to be done, ever. But how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. Although we don't want to be eating elephants because they, you know, we shouldn't eat elephants. So maybe a better thing would be like, how do we eat the biggest blueberry pie in the world? One bite at a time. That's what this feels like to me. This feels like the biggest blueberry pie in the world. But it is this project. Da, 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 da. Okay, I'm gonna like unravel this a little bit so you can fully see how much work I've done. I was working on this today, so I'm going to be ruining my setup because I just kind of tightened everything and realigned everything, but that's fine, I can do that again. It's fine to do that. But this is a full coverage cross stitch, which I love so much. Every time I see this, I think, my goodness, that's a beautiful, beautiful thing. But like I said, it's been on its little frame now for many, many years. And this is how much I have done already. Here we go. So as you can see, it is a full coverage cross stitch, and it's of one of the most beautiful illustrations. This illustration is called The Princess and the Swans, and it is based on the fairy tale The Princess and the Swans, which is one of my favourites. Hence why I did this project in the first place. But I started this, like I said, when I was still at college working towards my degree. And as you can see, I have done a large percentage of it already. Look at those beautiful, beautiful, majestic swans. Let's get in a little bit closer. Look at their little crowns and their wings and the detail in that. It's insane. I mean, it's full coverage cross stitch. It's none of your, oh, one square here, one square here, one square here cross stitch. This is hardcore. So I brought this out today, and I started working on it again. As you can see, it's kind of warped a little bit from being on the frame. I have no doubt, as you can see when I kind of pull this around, once it's kind of, it will have a little bit of a wash after it's finished. It is going to go back into the right dimensions, but unfortunately it does warp a little bit. But I'm working on this top rectangle. And yeah, it's taking a while, but I am really, really enjoying it. And it feels good to have got this at least out of hibernation for a little bit of time, because it's been in there for a while. I mean, look at it. It's going to be amazing. It's one of those things that's going to be so beautiful when it's done, but it will probably take me the next 10 years to get it done. But it feels incredibly satisfying to actually have spent that time, to have got it out of retirement and started to put a little bit of work into it. And I'm not in a rush, and I doubt that I will be sharing it with you guys super frequently, just because, I mean, I spent a good few hours working on this this morning, today, and it was lovely. It was a really, really lovely experience. Like I said, the kind of the hand stitching thing, so the cross stitch, it's just beautiful. It's so fun and calming, which is exactly what I need in my life right now, something restorative and calming and relaxing. And it's not too hot as well. Working with floss is not half as hot as working with thick yarns and mohair and yarn that's being held double and that type of thing. So it's great for the summer. But yeah, it's because of the way that this pattern is, it's also almost like painting with threads because it's so full coverage. I mean, it's ridiculous how many hours of my life have been put into this. And that's another reason why I kind of feel that I owe it to myself to try and get this done as much as I can, because I have put so much of myself, so much of my time into this, and I love it so much. Every time I look at it, all I can think of is how beautiful it is, about how incredible it will look when it's done. And I also find the process of working on it very, very enjoyable. So I'm going to pick it up and put a little bit of work into it when I can, and when I feel like it. I'm not going to feel obligated to do it. There's no time frame on this. Obviously, it's not going to get finished before the baby is here. I think that would be pretty ambitious of me to think that I could do this by that time, because it's slow going. And I mean, guys, that's a lot. There's a lot of stitches. It's a lot of stitches, and they're tiny, tiny, tiny little stitches. But yeah, kind of getting out older projects, showing them a bit of love, and reaffirming that I still want them in my life, even if they won't be finished anytime soon, has been really positive. And I do think that I'm going to put that attitude into my sewing projects. There are some sewing projects that have been languishing for a very, very long time that either need to be finished or need to be rethought if I'm not going to finish them, and the same with knitting projects. I'm kind of sick of having half-finished things lying around. And I think part of that is knowing that my time when it comes to crafting is obviously going to diminish when we have a child running around. I mean, they're not going to be running around right away, obviously, but I've heard they're a fair bit of work, babies and children. I've heard that they can take up quite a lot of time. So using this time to kind of get more balance in my life and feel more secure in terms of my own projects, and that the things that I am working on, even if I just have 15 minutes out of the day to do a little something, is going to be spent doing something that I really, really love. I feel really good about that. So yay, that's all very positive. But yeah, I don't think this will be finished anytime soon. I really don't, but I'm loving it. And that really is the most important thing, as far as I'm concerned, that it's bringing me so much joy. And yeah, can you imagine what it's going to look like when it's done? Oh my goodness. But yeah, like I said, I don't think that I will be sharing it with you on a weekly basis, just because I'll be going, look at all the work that I've done, and you guys will be like, it doesn't look any different from last week. Even though I would have been like, but I spent 5 hours working on it, because it's slow going, and because it's so full coverage, even if I spend hours and hours and hours adding to it, it really kind of doesn't make much of a difference. Maybe I'll post more of it on Instagram, because you might be able to see then from picture to picture the difference, but who knows. For now, I'm really, really happy with it, like I said, and yeah. Let me know if you've ever undertaken a ridiculous project like this, because it's insane. So that is about everything from the podcast this week, you guys. Thank you so much for watching. Again, slightly shorter episode, but I think that's probably how it's going to go for a little while, whilst I get my mojo back, whilst things start to settle, and I'm just not producing as much as I used to, but that's fine. It's just really lovely to be able to have this conversation every week with you all, and I'm really happy to be back with you. I think I'm going to call it a day there, because I am, again, like I was last week, pretty knackered from talking to you guys, even though it's been a relatively short amount of time this week. I'm also very, very hot. I do have my pug mug filled with water. Oh, that's better. Get lubricated and hydrated and all of that good stuff. But for now, from me to you, I hope you all have a wonderful week. I will see you all again very, very soon, hopefully with slightly more content than just baby, 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 for those of you who aren't into babies, so sorry about that. But for now, I'm sending you all so much love. I hope you have a wonderful crafty week, and I'll see you all really, really soon. Bye!